All right, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to our apostles, a great millstone that rule with honor and with diligence. Honors to you brothers out there pushing this truth and love and sincerity to wake up the elect. Peace be to the elect and their families, those that change according to the word. Calling on the names of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai in time of trouble. We say, peace be unto you. May the Lord have mercy on you in these evil times that we're living in. And you brothers and sisters out there listening and learning as well, may the Spirit continue to be with you and keep you as well. And this is a response video to this video right here. The brother down in Bloomington, known as Zakar Chaasad. Yeah, brother, first we want to say, hey, we ain't got no hard feelings towards you, brother. We know that situations happen. We're all go through, straits in this wicked kingdom. Some more than others. Every brother has been in similar situations as this. Brother spoke of in this video. Financial hardships is nothing new to us. Believe me when I say that. We just, brothers, you new brothers that come around us and, and come into our presence. We would rather that you tell us, because in the end, we would have did, if you had said something, brother, we would have did what we could to help you. That's how we were brought up in this truth. I remember a testimony I had, about my second time going up to New York and meeting the apostles. It was my second time. I went up there pretty much by myself, just to, go and fellowship with the apostles. I had such a good time the first time and got so much mental clarity. The first time I went, I was like, man, it's like, I was like, maybe I can grow more, yeah, if I'm around these men more, and, it was my second time going out to New York. Of course, I was in contact with, Elder Manatazak at the time, and I let him know. He was like, well, he told me it was cool for me to come up, and so I went up to New York, and I was just wanted to be around the man of the Lord. I was young in the faith, and I had kind of bit off more than I can chew financially, by taking the trip out there, and I didn't say nothing about it. I was just like, you know what? I already bought the round trip ticket. I'm here. I'll just soldier it out till I get back home. And I'll never forget this, man. We was at the Ponderosa, out in New York. The Ponderosa is, for brothers that know, that's a code word for, Apostle Hard's crib, man. But we was at the Pondee, and I was sitting there, just listening to all the stories of the, they was talking about the, the history of the One West history, and all the stories that, happened, bug outs calling the school. And, we was laughing. In the midst of the laughter, Pastor Hart looks at me and said, hey brother. He said, man, you good on money? He's like, you good? I looked at him, and in my mind I was about to say, yeah, I'm good. He said, man, it's cool, man. You could tell me if you need anything, And I was like, yeah, Salakia Apostle. I kind of, I kind of went above my means, And he said, man, he said, it's cool. Don't worry about it. He reaches in his pocket and gives me like $250, and I was only there for, I was leaving like the the morning after that following day. He's reached in his pocket and gave me, and like, and I, I remember I felt kind of bad. I was like, shit. I'm like, I should be giving you money. you know, I felt bad, man. I was like, shit. I was like, it's like, damn, man. I'm up here visiting these men. And these men give me money. I should be giving them money. You know, but I didn't want to lie to the man and tell him I was cool. I didn't want to lie. Because it looked, that Apostle Tahar got like this piercing look. He was looking at me. He said, "You need anything, brother? You good?" But I knew it was a spirit, because I was like, "Damn, I'm kind of, as a man, if you don't got funds, as a man, we do feel embarrassed. But shit, man, hey, we in Babylon, man. We go through that shit, man. That shit we all go through, bro. And that's an example that I'll never forget, man. You know, and if you brothers, man, you going through things, man. If you a solid brother in the faith, if you doing the work, man, we're gonna do what we can to help you, man. Like we don't come into this truth to handle things alone. You know, we don't come into this truth to suffer in silence by ourselves. Come on. So, but yeah, man, apostle gave me like $250. I'm like, shit. I didn't know at the time, I didn't know nobody that I could go to and even ask for money, you know? So I understand what it is to be in that state where you don't you're not used to asking people for anything, I get it. But bro, like we wouldn't have looked at you no type of way about, your situation, because we all been in that position, you know. So hey brother, we not gonna make no rebuke videos. we not we not gonna make no rebuke videos, man, because you know it ain't, it's really not your fault that you suffer poverty in this wicked kingdom. It's just this devil, you know. He's made it his business to keep us on the bottom. To make it to where we struggle from check to check, while he hoards all the wealth. So, but the most important thing, brother, is that you kept doing the work, and we encourage you, to keep doing the work, bro. You know, you know, we ain't got no issues with you here at Great Millstone, like at the Indiana camp. We ain't got no issues with you, bro. You know, if you notice, brothers didn't really do no rebuke videos. When the situation went down, because we didn't know exactly what was happening, and scriptures speak about not being hasty, in the spirit, man. Not being presumptuous. So we just let the situation rest where it was. But now that I'm hearing the whole situation, it does bring clarity. We're grateful that you shared with us, because we were looking at ourselves like, did we do something to offend the brother? Like, did we was we like kind of hard on the brother, or like we was, we didn't know what was going on. So we was like, of course Satan, had the opportunity to kind of fuck with us, like, hey, did we mistreat the brother? Was we, like, did we offend you? That's where our mind was, so yeah, no hard feelings, bro. Just keep doing the work, man. That's what it's about at the end of the day. It's about serving Yahweh Shem Yahushai. You know, at the end of the day, it's about doing the work, bro. And hey, man, hey, if I ever see you again, I'd be happy to see you. I'm sure other brothers would. Or we're happy to get clarity on this situation. And bro, we wouldn't, if you would have came to us, we would have did what we could to help you, bro. When we're in situations, like when we're going through hardship, bro, like that's what the brotherhood is for. And I know certain brothers that came up pretty much by themselves in the truth, or haven't been around a lot of brothers like that. They don't understand the full dynamic of how everything works. But we here at Great Millstone, hey, we help each other. Hey, that's from the apostles on down, man. Hey, man, like, when I came, man, the apostle Gabar, man, like, came and took me to lunch. Oh, man, apostles cooked for me, man. It was like, like, that's the example that we have. We look out for one another, man. I never felt like I was alone in GMS. I never felt like I was by myself. Of course, Satan wanted me to feel that way several times, but you rebuke Satan. Because Satan wants you out there by yourself. The scriptures say, "Can be continually with a godly man, whose mind is like thy mind, who will sorrow for thee if thou shalt miscarry." So for us to be by ourselves, man, we're more privy to demonic attacks that we have to suffer on our own. But I just wanted to put it out there, bro. We ain't got no hard feelings towards you. I've been in that situation. I know how it is to go through that. A lot of brothers in this camp have been through that situation and even harder situations. So we understand suffering, bro. It's nothing to get mad at a brother because he's suffering. And the scriptures speak against that, So I'm gonna get. This is Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, "My son, defraud not the poor of his living, and make not the needy eyes to wait long." It says, "Make not a hungry soul sorrowful, neither provoke a man in his distress." So we're not gonna rebuke you because you suffering monetarily, bro. Like we wouldn't do that. But like the thing is, brothers got to know what's going on. Because if we put in a situation where we got to kind of guess and try to guess what's going on with a situation, Satan gets an opportunity to kind of like put thoughts in our minds. So clarity is very important in this truth, in this ministry. Clarity, it's important to be upfront, and brothers, brothers wouldn't have cursed you out for, man, being poor. We understand that, bro. Man, I get it, bro. Like I grew up majority of my life poor, bro. When I was a kid, bro, I grew up poor. I know what it is to be at the bottom. I know what it is. I watched my parents suffer monetarily the majority of my life. So I know that situation, and I know as a man it's hard to disclose your, it's hard to disclose that certain information to other men because you feel, when you're in that situation, you kind of feel like less than a man, but we're in this situation because we were systematically oppressed to be put in this situation. Poverty is not always our fault. People say that shit and because they got better lives or whatever their lives entail, they probably suffered and came up. But that's not everybody's lot. Sometimes you're gonna suffer poverty. You know, it says, "Make not verse 2. Make not a hungry soul sorrowful, neither provoke a man in his distress." Verse 3, "Add not more trouble to an heart that is vexed, and defer not to give to him that is in need." So, brother, if you'd have came to us and said, brothers, I'm kind of hurting. I got this situation going on. You know, first question we'd ask, hey, is the brother diligent? Is the brother doing the work? Yeah, the brother, you was doing the work. So of course, brothers would have put a collection together for you, like boom, bro, like that's no problem. Because that's what this brotherhood is about, man. You know, the Lord gave us the brotherhood so we didn't have to suffer everything by ourselves. And brother, like you didn't have to suffer that by yourself. You know, and it's hard for every brother to disclose information about his personal life. But bro, if you need help, man, like I remember Elder Hashimi. I always say this. When Apostle Tahar was like, "Man, brothers talking about I don't want to be a burden." Apostle Tahar was like, "Be a burden, brother," because the scriptures command us to bear ye one another's burdens. So ain't gonna be we're not gonna do no rebuke videos, bro. We're not mad at you. We don't have no personal art against you. It's good to receive clarity about the situation because we thought that we was fucked up, and when the information about certain things don't go out, and we don't get the understanding about them, then Satan gets an advantage to kind of fuck with brothers, So it's good to going forward, brother. Only thing I would suggest is just be open. If if you decide to reach back out with us, in the spirit, mend this whole situation back together, just be upfront with us. Let us know, hey brothers, I'm kind of hurting, this and that. What we gonna do? We gonna we gonna curse you out because you ain't got money? Because I mean, like not because you ain't got money, but we gonna curse you out because you're in a bad state or you're in a bad situation. This is verse 3. "Add not more trouble to an heart that is vexed, and defer not to give to him that is in need." So we're not gonna curse you out because, brother, you suffer in poverty. Because we've all been there. We've all suffered poverty. Being in a stable situation doesn't mean that this situation could change at any minute. Like I've been up in situations where I was doing real good, and then situations where I was doing low, all throughout my walk in the truth. But sometimes like it strengthens the bond of brotherhood when you can tell brothers, look, I'm going through this, and then brothers like we got you. As opposed to you just suffering that thing on your own, and then the whole situation could have been, and then another thing, you don't want to rob another brother of his charity. The scriptures say charity cover a multitude of sins. So a brother's ability to help another brother is a mercy upon him, and we all need mercy. We all need Yahweh Shem Shai to give us mercy. So you don't want to rob another brother of his charity or his ability to help you, and to allow that that blessing to come into him. So verse 5, "Turn not thine eye away from the needy, and give him none occasion to curse thee. For if he curse thee in the bitterness of his soul, his prayer should be heard of him that made him." So if we would cursed you out, bro, and you got mad and said, you know what, them niggas, may the Lord deal with them. Hey, the Lord would have heard that. And the Lord would have got at us. So and one thing about us, bro, you're not gonna come to us and say, I'm suffering, I'm going through something, and we're gonna curse you out about it. If it's something that like, okay, it's a difference from being in a situation and creating situations. Sometimes you just get caught in a situation in a bad place. Hey, bro, I've been homeless before. Like literally sleeping in a bando. But the Lord brought me out of that situation. I've gone through, living in a 2-story house, a big house, to sleeping in a brother's basement. You know, but the Lord brought me out of that situation, man. So at the end of the day, man, like if I didn't have the brothers to help me, like I don't know where I would have been. If I didn't have the brothers to help me, you know, I could have been in the worst situations. But the Lord sustained me throughout those situations. And we understand brothers that haven't been around brothers like that and don't really, know how everything operates. Sometimes you may feel like, Satan really fuck with your mind, make you feel like, yeah, bro, brother's gonna be mad at me, or brother's gonna get on me, you know, if I tell him, and it don't be, that don't be the case, you know, and this truth is not always about rebuke. Sometimes it's about it's mostly about healing. It's more about healing than rebuke. We're not gonna rebuke a brother because he's going through straits. Like that just that's just something we don't do. You know, now it'd be different if brothers, if Jake was going to the job drunk, you know uh, uh you know Jake was like just creating bad situations for herself, then we'll tell you, bro, like, bro, you gotta chill, bro. Like, you can't create bad situations for yourself, you know. But but every brother in this camp has suffered loss. Every brother in this camp has suffered poverty. And that's just, I'm just being honest. I know, like, like as a man, like we feel like we should be responsible and we hard on ourselves. But like we've all been in positions where we needed help, and what do? We help one another, and brother, like if you'd have told us, we wouldn't have rebuked you for it. We would have helped you, you know, to the best of our ability. We would have helped you, you know. But we just want to put that out there, brothers, like especially younger brothers, man, like that ain't been around brothers like that. Always seek counsel before you make certain decisions. Always talk to brothers, because you could create a space where Satan can come in and add more sorrow to brothers. Satan can come in and fuck with brothers' minds. And hey, sufficient to the day, sufficient of the day is the evil thereof, man. So we already go through enough shit, you know. So we don't want to, we want to be open and have clarity about situations. That's all, bro. And we're good. We're glad that you came. The Spirit guided you to do this video, because like when it happened, we was looking at ourselves like, man, what did we do? Was we too hard on the brother? But like, was it something that we said, or was we joking around that could have offended the brother? Like, we was looking at us, we wasn't thinking that it was something that you was dealing with. You know, we was looking at ourselves like, man, maybe we, you know how that go, But yeah, man, that's pretty much it, you know. So all praises be to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, Bashem Kodash, double honors to apostles, honors to brothers out there pushing the word. Shalom.